Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Panda, Go Panda from 1972 and 1973. And this is continuing my Studio Ghibli series where I try to review all of the films that Studio Ghibli ever made, including all the works before Studio Ghibli was formed of Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata. This is actually a collection of two 32-minute short films directed by Isao Takahata and written and I think storyboarded by Hayao Miyazaki. Mimiko, whose grandmother and parent/guardian is going to visit some friends, and she goes on a train and leaves Mimiko alone. Apparently in Japan at the time, it was a necessity to kind of leave kids by themselves, supposedly, or so I've read. So this was actually not that uncommon. I guess this is kind of like an animated The Little Fugitive, but with a lot more fantasy in it. So she goes home and all the village knows she's by herself, and everyone's like, oh, she's so strong, she'll be fine. So she gets home and finds a baby panda, and then she finds the papa panda and decides that the papa panda will be her dad and that the baby panda will be her son in a weird edible twist thing. It's actually a very cute, sweet little animated film. And the first one, Panda Go Panda, or in Japan it's called Panda Copanda, which literally translates to Panda Baby Panda. The second film, Panda Go Panda, The Rainy Day Circus, which is about a circus that comes to town and Mimiko's grandmother is still away, either on, some reviews have said a different trip, but when I saw the film I got the impression it was the same trip. Maybe she's just by herself a lot, I'm not sure. Papa Panda, Mimiko, and the baby panda are all living together, and a baby tiger breaks into their house and they become friends with the baby tiger, especially the baby panda, and then it rains and there's a flood and they save the circus animals who are trapped in a train. This was the first film that Hayao Miyazaki wrote himself, and really the first feature film that has a real strong creative input from Hayao Miyazaki. These films did actually do fairly well. They were both catching on the panda craze in Japan, which was a diplomacy thing where China and Japan traded pandas, or Japan got some pandas from China. I'm not exactly, I'm a little confused on that. But people were really into pandas in September of 1972. The first film, Panda Go Panda, was released in December of 1972. And they had actually apparently proposed, Miyazaki and Isao Takahata had proposed to do the film before the panda craze had started, before they knew the pandas were coming over. And it was just kind of, they were just very lucky in that fact. And the film apparently did well enough that they made a sequel, The Rainy Day Circus. And The Rainy Day Circus actually was successful enough that at the time it was released with Godzilla vs. Megalon. This film I think is best known, and kind of its reputation is for the precursor to what would eventually become Totoro. And if you watch the Dad Panda especially, there's a lot of his movements and certainly his smile and definitely his character design are very similar to Totoro. And the town that Mimiko lives in is also based on, as well as My Neighbor Totoro, they're both based on Hayao Miyazaki's hometown. So there are some similarities there, but when we get to My Neighbor Totoro, that's 15 years from this film. And so he's much further into a career and much more of a master craftsman and a master storyteller than he is in this early work. So it is a little weird for someone whose reputation, especially in America, is really based on being a master storyteller, to see his earlier work, the things he started off with. I didn't expect the complexity, but it doesn't have the patience and the quiet moments that I'm used to with a Miyazaki film, or an Isao Takahata film for that matter. There is some debate over who really directed these two shorts. Maybe it was Hayao Miyazaki took charge or something like that. I kind of get the impression that it's still a Isao Takahata film, but I think they're both very involved in it. They were, you know, partners at this time, but I don't think Hayao Miyazaki kind of ghost directed this or anything like that. But there are a lot of similarities. There's references. There's like a Lupin the Third kind of character I saw in the crowd when they're in the zoo at one point. The pandas are in the zoo. Even the way the baby panda jumps on the Papa Panda's stomach, and Mimiko does that as well, looks exactly how the girls in Totoro do it. And a lot of people say that Mimiko is kind of a prototype for Mei and a prototype for Satsuki from the two sisters from My Neighbor Totoro. I don't really see Satsuki as much. I feel like that's kind of more of a stretch. It's like just because she is the older protective one, I don't really buy that as much. I didn't see that. To me, it's more Mei than it is Satsuki, but maybe a little more mature Mei, so that might throw people. Also, apparently Mimiko is also based on Pippi Longstocking, which a lot of people believe because in 1971, Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata were trying to get the rights to do a Pippi Longstocking movie, and they went and they talked to, I guess, the author Astrid Lindgren, and went to Sweden and scouted locations. After they met with him, he decided not to give them the rights. So that might have something to do with her character design as well. There seems to be a lot of influences at play. A lot of them, you know, they have cute little references in this. They also have, apparently there's a reference in My Neighbor Totoro to this, where you see the policeman who's riding a bike in this to check on Mimiko because he's worried about her with these pandas, and there's almost the same shots in My Neighbor Totoro, and he rides by the car and the two girls hide and they go, oh, I thought that was a policeman. That's kind of an inside joke. I haven't watched My Neighbor Totoro recently, so I can't, I just read this online. I'm not sure how true that is, but when I review My Neighbor Totoro, I will let you know. But that sounds kind of interesting. That sounds familiar, so I'm wondering. When I watched this film, this felt like I was just watching like a simpler kind of kids movie. I think it was a fairly entertaining kids movie, and a lot of the humor in it isn't so overly kid-centric, but, you know, again, I watch a lot of cartoons, so maybe I'm a little biased. I like the opening theme. I can understand if it annoyed a lot of parents at the time, and any parents who have to sit through it now would probably be annoyed with it as well, but it does have kind of an earnest sweetness to it. It's like a story written by a kid. The flood at the end of The Rainy Day Circus reminds me a lot of Ponyo. I'm wondering if there was a flood in Miyazaki's hometown when he was growing up, because it did really remind me of Ponyo later. Actually, I read in his book he liked seeing the second film, The Rainy Day Circus, before the Godzilla film, and you could see how much all the kids loved his movies. And if you've ever seen a Miyazaki film on the big screen, it's really great to see how kids react to it. And I think this would be a film kids would react to and laugh and really get into. And I think that might have inspired him to see the effect of his work on children. There is some debate that this played in theaters or TV, but the fact that he writes that he saw it in the theater kind of makes me think that it originally premiered in theaters, but it could obviously have played on TV at some point. I don't know if I would definitely recommend it to someone unless you're a huge Totoro fan. I think you'd actually get a kick out of it. At first I was like, I don't know if I really want to watch both of them, even though, because they're both released separately, so I could have done two separate reviews, but I chose not to. But Panda Go Panda and The Rainy Day Circus, I think they're both just as good. The Rainy Day Circus is 38 minutes, Panda Go Panda is 33 minutes. They're both fine movies, and I think if you are like really into My Neighbor Totoro, it's a good movie to check out because you'll see where this character came from, and it's a lot more digestible, I guess. It's a lot less complex. I kind of enjoy the hearty meal that is My Neighbor Totoro compared to this. This feels a lot more like a simple cheese sandwich, but it's a very good simple cheese sandwich. I like seeing, you know, the Papa Panda and the Baby Panda, and they do kind of a Goldilocks thing in the beginning of Rainy Day Circus. It's just a very well-made simple kids movie. To become a master storyteller, you know how you need to actually tell a very good story first. You have to be kind of a craftsman before you become a master, and I think that's really true in this film. With Horus, Prince of the Sun, they kind of tried to do something that they couldn't get away with, and this is a film they could get away with, and it was kind of appealing more to the masses, and I think it definitely apparently worked out for them because they did fairly well and they were kind of hits. And even though, you know, Hayao Miyazaki said he didn't feel bad exploiting the panda craze at the time, but I don't think he's really exploiting because they came up with it before. They did financially, I guess. Sometimes you don't have to change the world with everything, and I think they learned to have more modest goals with this one, but they certainly succeeded, and it shows they can just be very good storytellers and make a very finely made kids cartoon. So if you have seen Panda Go Panda and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. So the next film in my Studio Ghibli series, or my pre-Studio Ghibli series right now, is going to be The Castle of Cagliostro, and that will be in about 2 weeks. It's the Lupin the Third movie and Hayao Miyazaki's directorial debut in terms of theatrically, and I hope to see you then, and thank you for watching.